What's going on, everybody? It's Joel here, and today we're going to do a video about my first impressions about the Nike Metcon Flyknit 3. These shoes were available to order last Friday, which was November 30th. If you are a Nike Plus member, I got the overnight shipping, got these on Saturday, did one workout last night, and today is now Sunday. We're going to be going over what I thought about this shoe in the first day or two of owning them. Besides the Adonis Creed model, this colorway was the only one that you could order right off the bat. I know the men's are going to get a white upper and a black outsole midsole combination, and then the women's one is going to be very similar to that white and black as well. That's like kind of like the Adonis Creed one, but the Adonis Creed has the strap and it's more of a mid-cut. I think that this shoe is really good looking. I think the styling is sick. I think the lines are really clean. The Flyknit looks really dope on the black and silver and white model, which is this one. It kind of has this like metallic sheen to it when you put it under light, and it's just a really clean looking shoe. So first things first, they finally dropped the DSX part out of the name. It's just called the Metcon Flyknit 3. I have no clue why they even had DSX in the name in the first place. I didn't know what it stood for, and they never really explained if it stood for anything in the first place. So I'm glad that that's gone. It's just called the Metcon Flyknit 3 now. It is definitely the next model to the DSX Flyknit 2 and the DSX Flyknit 1, and you can tell by just the way that the shoe looks. It does look like a evolution of the DSX 2s. It does carry on that same sock-like design. It's not a single piece. It wasn't on the DSX2, but first off, you can tell the biggest upgrade is going to be right at the back area of the shoe, right around the ankle collar. It just looks beefed up. It is not a Flyknit material in this area anymore. It's kind of this plusher material, very similar to the same kind of ankle collar on the Free X Metcon. There's less stitching all around, but for the most part, kind of the same. I'm going to tell you right now that the Free X Metcons have a more like loose opening compared to the opening on the DSX or the Flyknit 3s. The DSX 2s had just an elastic band around the ankle collar, which some people hated. I didn't mind it all that much, but the ankle collar on the Metcon Flyknit 3 is far more secure. There's more structure in this area, but keep in mind that it is also much harder to put your foot inside of this shoe. Overall, in the midfoot and back part of the shoe feels a little bit more narrow in comparison to the DSX 2. Now, another big upgrade to the back area, the ankle collar area of the Metcon Flyknit 3s are going to be these TPU eye stays that do say Metcon on them. That is going to give you a much more secure laced fit when you have the shoe on. And I have to tell you right now that the heel slip in this shoe is minimal. It's not even noticeable. There's a very slight bit if you really want to nitpick, but I'm going to say that it's, for the most part, it's gone. Otherwise, yeah, the ankle collar does have a fair amount of cushioning, definitely a lot more than any of the previous shoes, maybe a little bit more similar to the original DSX. There is this pull tab at the back of the shoe. There's no external TPU heel counter, but there's a more reinforced part at the back of the shoe, and that's kind of this nice soft touch fabric that is kind of like a suede material. Otherwise, looking at the front part of the shoe, or the toe area, midfoot of the shoe, the toe box of the shoe feels more narrow, though it looks like it is the same exact size. Now, why I think it feels more narrow is because there are overlays on top of it, and that's supposed to give the shoe a little bit more structure, but it also makes the shoe a little bit less flexible. You can definitely feel that when you're walking around. Now, the knit material is going to be pretty much the same exact thing. One thing that I did notice that's different is that there is a little bit more cushioning inside of the shoe on top, whereas on the DSX2s it kind of just bunches up right here. The Flyknit 3s have a little bit more structure in that area and it doesn't bunch up. There's actually a little bit of an underlay in that area. But there aren't perforations like there are on the DSX2s. I haven't noticed any differences as far as ventilation though. The outsole on these shoes is the same exact thing. It is the same exact tread pattern. It says the same RS10001 rubber, sticky rubber 004 jargon that's on the side of the shoe. It is the same exact outsole, which is fine. It's a very, very durable and very grippy outsole. The lacing system on both shoes is both fly wire. You can feel the fly wire kind of filaments still on the sides of the shoe. The laces themselves are a much more like nicer feeling taut kind of lace. I do think that they look more high quality in general compared to the DSX2 and the DSX1, which had some really crappy laces. So comparing the drop-in midsoles between the Metcon Flyknit 3s and the DSX2s, they're gonna be pretty much the exact same thing. There is no more sizing tag on the Flyknit 3s, but otherwise the material is that same kind of like rubbery drop-in midsole, as opposed to the like more like foamy, more rough drop-in midsole on the DSX Flyknit 1s. This is the squeaky one, and this is the squeaky material. This is the same kind of material that's on pretty much all of the other Metcons besides the DSX2 and the Metcon Flyknit 3s. I never had any squeaking issues with my DSX2, so I don't expect it to be happening on the Metcon Flyknit 3s. Otherwise, yeah, the Metcon Flyknit 3s are probably going to be a 6mm drop shoe. The drop-in midsoles are identical, so I don't expect that to change at all. So when I measured the weight of all of the Flyknit shoes, the DSX Flyknit 1s were the lightest. They were just over 11 ounces per immense 10. The DSX Flyknit 2s were the heaviest at 11.58 ounces, just under 12 ounces. And then the Metcon Flyknit 3s were right in the middle, and they were like 11.58 ounces, which is not a heavy training shoe. I think that's a fair amount of weight for pretty much any standard training shoe nowadays. Another one of the biggest changes with the Metcon Flyknit 3s is sizing. So with the DSX2s, a lot of people went down half a size because they did run a little bit on the long side. With the Metcon Flyknit 3s, do not go with that half size down. Go with your normal training shoe size, because I feel like these run a little bit, if anything, on the smaller and definitely more narrow feeling side. So I got these in a size 10. I wear my normal Metcon 4s in a size 10. I wear the DSX 1s in a size 10, and those three shoes feel very, very similar. There's not a whole lot of space for me personally in these shoes, but I think by sizing up half size, then I'd run into the same issues that I did with the DSX2s. I did wear a size 10 in the DSX2s because I do have Morton's toe, and sizing down to a 9.5 made my Morton's toe run into the front of the shoe. So I did have a little bit of space in these shoes. That space is all gone, and it's not there in the Metcon Flyknit 3s. These do fit a little bit more on the snug size. If anything, if you like to wear your shoes a little bit tight in the first place, you're probably going to want to go up half a size on the Metcon Flyknit 3s. In comparison, the Metcon Flyknit 3s run a little bit more narrow and a little bit shorter than the DSX2s. They run a little bit more narrow than the DSX Flyknit 1s and about the same length. They're definitely more narrow than the Metcon Frees for sure, but the length is about the same, and then the length and the width is pretty much spot on with the Metcon 4. I'd say that's the most similar in sizing to the Flyknit 3s. So flexibility and comfort of the Metcon Flyknit 3s is kind of a weird one. Now, these are definitely not as flexible or as comfortable or as lightweight as the Metcon Frees. These are some of my favorite shoes because they were all of that. They were flexible, comfortable, and lightweight, and they were also very, very stable. So these are definitely not even close to being on the same level. The Flyknit 3s aren't even on the same kind of flexibility level as the Flyknit 2s because of that added structure and stability from the overlays. These are noticeably less flexible in the metatarsal area than the Flyknit 2s were. And also, they're less flexible in the ankle area because of that upgraded ankle collar, which is for sure, in my opinion, better because there's no heel slip and it definitely feels more secure overall in this area. It feels more stable in the ankle collar for the Flyknit 3s. So I'm going to take that as a plus. But overall, the flexibility and the forefoot of the shoe is not as good as it was on the Flyknit 2s. Nor is it as flexible as the Flyknit 1s. So for overall comfort, the Flyknit 3s are not gonna be as comfortable to wear around just like on a daily basis or just to kind of coach in, walk around in as the Flyknit 2s because they're just not as flexible. The underfoot cushioning is gonna be the same exact thing, which I never really had an issue with. I did like the drop-in midsole from the DSX Flyknit 2s, and I thought the original drop-in midsole from the Flyknit 1s was complete garbage. So the Metcon Flyknit 3s are definitely going to be an upgrade over the Flyknit 1s in that area, but it's going to be the same thing as the Flyknit 2s. Stability is where I feel the Metcon Flyknit 3s get their biggest upgrade, and that definitely has to be because of the upgraded ankle collar of the shoe. The moment that you put your foot inside the Metcon Flyknit 3s, you're going to notice a huge upgrade in just overall foot containment. Your foot feels way more locked down because of this brand new ankle collar. It does not stretch all that much, so it is kind of a pain to get your foot in, but overall I think that this is a huge upgrade and it makes the shoe feel a lot different than the previous ones in just that area. Another upgrade to the Flyknit is just the overlay. It keeps your foot contained a lot better than any of the previous model shoes, so your feet don't slide around laterally as much as they did in the original 2 shoes. I think the overall stability of the shoe is excellent. I did some Ollie lifting last night, did some split jerks, did some clean and jerks, and I felt really locked down. There was no heel slip in the Flyknit 3s during those split jerks, which is going to be the greatest upgrade of all because Metcons are notorious for heel slip, especially the DSX2s, which had a ridiculous amount of heel slip. Power delivery is excellent. I thought the drop-in midsole from the DSX2 was excellent. Doing any kind of heavy lifting in that shoe was fine and way better, was way better than the original DSX1s that had that really mushy, crappy drop-in midsole. So I'm gonna say these lifting performance wise are going to be better than the DSX2, far better than the DSX1 because they retain the DSX2's drop-in midsole, which is very responsive, plus they have that better foot containment and stability and structure throughout the shoe. The Metcon Flyknit 3s retail for $150. That is $20 more than your standard Metcon 4. They fall right in line with the DSX2s. And the DSX1s costed like $160. There is a special edition model of the Metcon Flyknit 3s, which is the Adonis Creed model. I did order those. I have those on the way. They were $160. Those were like a mid-cut. They have a strap over them. I'll do an update video when those get in. But yeah, the weird thing about these shoes is that they kind of feel like Metcon 4s. Like, if I were to pick these shoes for a workout, it'd be the same kind of workouts that I do in the Metcon 4s. They're just about as flexible. They feel a little bit taller, not as low to the ground, but the power delivery on both shoes feels pretty much identical. The responsiveness is identical. The flexibility is maybe a little bit better on the Flyknit 3s, but it's not something that you're gonna really notice a huge difference with. I do personally think that these are a better looking shoe than the Metcon 4s, but I mean, when it comes down to it, if you needed a performance shoe, you can just get Metcon 4s. The DSX Flyknit 2s are a little bit more flexible, a little bit more comfortable to just wear around than the Flyknit 3s, but those had a lot of issues with heel slip, and they did run a little bit big, so my foot personally slides around a lot in those shoes. I would wear those probably more casually, more for workouts where I just didn't really care as much for. Over the Flyknit 1s, if you're coming from those shoes, I know a lot of people like those shoes, but personally I really did not like those shoes. I thought they were probably my least favorite training shoe of all time. these are a huge upgrade. But if you like those and you like that drop-in midsole, you're probably not gonna like these because this drop-in midsole is less forgiving than the original DSX midsole was. The Metcon Flyknit 3s officially go on sale on December the 5th. That's this coming week, and they will retail for that $150 mark on Nike.com, and I'm pretty sure that they're going to be on like places like Rogue, maybe Roadrunner Sports, Box Basics, all of those other sites, Dick's Sporting Goods. They're probably going to have them as well. But yeah, these are the Metcon Flyknit 3s. I will have a full-on performance review when I get a little bit more work done in these shoes. But until then, make sure you follow me on Instagram, where you can monitor pretty much all the workouts that I'm going to do in the next couple weeks with the Metcon Flyknit 3s. If you have any questions about these shoes, feel free to leave them in the comment section. And as always, guys, please hit that like button, subscribe, and thanks for watching.